Hey boys, we're up to the Sharks now, which is not one of my favourite teams, that's for damn sure, but let's do this anyway. Line up. And we start off with Michael Gordon with a 90. That's pretty high. I mean, I actually do like Michael Gordon as a player. I think he's, whatever team he's played for, whether it was the Panthers a while ago and now the Sharks, he's been one of the best players, but I feel like 90 is pretty damn high. Like, that's getting up to like the best fullbacks in the game, and he's not even like getting a look in to like play for New South Wales or even sitting country fullback spots, so I just feel like that's a little high. But I do like him. I think he's a bit underrated in real life. Like he doesn't really get called upon for New South Wales. Like, I feel like he should have played more for New South Wales, but you know, that's why he goes sometimes. Sometimes good players get overlooked, but yeah. Then we got Fecky, 73. I feel like this is a bit low. He's a good winger. Yeah, it's probably about right. You know, he's one of those young guys coming through who's got a lot of talent, and whether or not he gets consistent enough and grows into it a bit more is yet to be seen, but I feel like he's been pretty good for the Sharks this year. Maybe a bit low. But then we got Gerard Beale, 80. And I would have probably said this is too low in his like Broncos days, but for the Sharks, like, I don't know, he doesn't get involved too much. Like, the few games I've seen, like, Beale hardly touches the ball. Like, he's a very quick guy. He's pretty dangerous out wide, but he doesn't really get the ball too much, so it's hard to judge. I'd still say that's a bit low. I remember in the Broncos, he was one of the best players. He was always a very dangerous player, so I'd say he's a bit low. Then we got Laitelli. I think it's Laitelli. I think that's how you say it. But 78. He's sort of like Fecky, a young guy coming through. And I think 78 is pretty fair. It's hard to judge these young guys, but I'd say 78 is pretty fair. I'm not actually sure if this is the backline they run around with, because then we got Valentine Holmes, who I think this is way too low. I know when, like, I think Gordon was injured and Barber was out, Valentine Holmes played fullback, and he looked good. He's got a lot of pace, a lot of footwork, and I'm sick of seeing this, like, some of these players with, like, some of the backs have really low footwork. I don't understand that. Like, I'm pretty sure all the outside backs should have, like, really high footwork. Like, their backs. I mean, maybe, like, someone like Jamal Idris or Joseph Leilua might not, but, like, the little quick backs like Valentine Holmes, he's a fast winger fullback. Yeah, it's a bit silly, but this is way too low. He should be much higher. I think like 80s. Like the couple of games he got to like play fullback, he was excellent. So he's definitely one for the future, and he's a guy that I think will make it. And here's a pretty big surprise: Ben Barber with 94, and that's a great portrait of Ben Barber right there. But yeah, Ben Barber with 94. That is unbelievable. Can't believe how high he is. I don't really know what they base this off, because like maybe a couple of years ago he was, but last year for the Broncos he didn't play very good, and he hasn't started that great for the Sharks. He had like a couple of good games, but yeah, 95 is ridiculous. Like, that's, I think what Thurston was on like 95, Smith 94. Like, they're comparing like Ben Barber with pretty much as good as Thurston. It's ridiculous. Like, he's not even really playing 5'8". Jack Bird is sort of getting the starting role. Yeah, I don't know, man. Some of the stats are a little wonky, but this one way too high. I'd have him like low mid 80s. Jeff Robson 82. I agree with. Like, he's sort of just that solid halfback who doesn't really. He's not going to win too many games for a team. He needs players outside of him, but if he's got a good team, he can steer them around pretty nicely. So yeah, he's sort of just a fill-in my opinion, but he's doing a good job. Then we got Andrew Fafita, 82. You know, compared to all the other forwards, I'd say this is about right because I consider him one of the best props in the game. So, you know, he's just below Scott, a bit below Tamo in the ratings, so it's probably about fair. I feel like all front rowers should get a bit of an increase in this game, but whether they do or not is yet to be seen. Here's another silly one, Michael Ennis, 90. I don't agree with this. Like last episode we had the Panthers and Seguiaro with 91, and I agree with Michael Ennis is nowhere near the standard Seguiaro, and he's a 90 somehow. You know, Ennis, he's a good defender, he's aggressive, doesn't miss too many tackles, that sort of thing, but he doesn't create anything. Any game I watch for Ennis, he does not run the ball, hardly ever, you know. He's just not a very creative player in my opinion. He's just a good defender, that's basically his job, like a niggling good defender, that's pretty much it. He's a pest. Yeah, way too high, should be like 80, in my opinion. Like, he's not even going to get a look in for New South Wales, so yeah, way too high. Sam Tagatese, 69. I feel like this is too low. He's an impact player. Yeah, like here's another one, his footwork is 1. Like, I don't know if they made his footwork of 1 so his stats wouldn't be really high, because they got like speed 79, strength 80, strategy 80, like all these are high. All these are pretty good, and then you got footwork of 1. I feel like that's just to make him so he's not really high, but I mean he's got good footwork for a big fella. He's sort of like I'm pretty sure he started in the centers, didn't he? Like years and years ago, but yeah, he's a good player. I like watching him. He's put in some massive hits his time playing the game, and yeah, he's just one of those impact players that you'd love to have on your team. Then we got Luke Lewis, 86, and I agree with this. Yeah, I agree with this. He the last year or so he's fallen away a bit, but I still feel like he's one of the better back rows in the game, and you can also slot him into the centres. I mean, I still remember the old Penrith days where him and Luke Rooney were on the wings, for God's sakes. That seems so long ago, but Luke Lewis is still running around, one of the better players in the game. Like, he is definitely a trooper, old Luke Lewis. Yeah, like I said, he's fallen away a bit, but still one of the better players, in my opinion. Wade Graham with 84. You know, not a big fan of Wade Graham. But yeah, he's another versatile player who can play like in the 5'8". 84 is probably, I don't know, it's maybe a touch high. I'd have him like 80. But yeah, he's a solid player. Then we got good old Paul Gallen here. 88. I don't know. Having him 88, I mean, compared to the other forwards, like he's I don't know, do you call him a front rower? I don't know. I guess he's a lock, but he plays front row for like New South Wales, Australia, but I feel like it's a touch high. I mean, if you're calling him a front rower, he is definitely not miles ahead of like Tamo, Scott, Andrew Fafita for that matter. But I guess if you're putting him into the lock category, maybe he would be a bit higher. Like, that's where the stats are a little wonky, but I feel like it's a touch high compared to the other forwards in the game, but, you know, it's Paul Gallen, what are you going to do? Jason Bakuya, 76. He's a good player, I like Bakuya. 76 is probably about right, though. You know, he's just one of those solid guys who does his job, and he's a consistently good player for the Sharks, so maybe a touch low, but probably about right. Then we got David Fafita, and I feel like this is a bit low. You know, if you look at David and Andrew, they're pretty much identical the way they look, and I feel like this year especially, David Fafita's starting to stand up, and actually do what his brother's been doing, and that would, in my opinion, move him up a little bit, because he is a handful, just like his brother. So I'd have him like mid 70s, maybe high 70s. Chris Harrington, 85. I'd say that's probably about right. You know, Harrington, he's a good player. He's been around for a long time. He's one of those old-fashioned, hard-working back rowers who's not going to bust teams up too often, but he just, you know, he gets through his like 30 tackles, 12 hit-ups a game, that sort of thing. Just a good, solid performer, solid stats man, really. And then we got Tupu, and I don't know what's happened with Tupu. He used to be such a good player. He used to be such a damaging player. But, I don't know, 80 feels like a bit high for him. Like, he comes on and he does a couple of good things, but I don't know, it's like his fitness isn't there or something, because he can't last it, and he's definitely not what he used to be. I mean, when he used to play for the Roosters, he was one of the best players in the best back rowers, running back rowers in the game. He was like representative level, and then he just fell away. He just really fell away. But I think this year he's picked it up a bit. But yeah, overall the last few years he hasn't been anywhere near his best. So yeah, that's Tupu, and that's the Sharks done and dusted. Let's have a look-see at the jerseys. That's their jerseys. I guess I haven't done the heritage ones, but yeah, all looking pretty good. But yeah, that's the Sharks done, so I'll see you guys in the next one.